Hey, you guys, I'm back. This is Save Time with Tori. I'm back in my car again. The video I did earlier, if you guys watched it already, I was at home on my whiteboard. My favorite place to be, believe it or not. I know you guys are used to seeing me in the car, but sometimes I get tired of the car and whatnot. It is more private in here, to be honest with you. I do feel like I can express myself a little bit, better, but on the board is it's kind of like a different experience for me. But I'm probably gonna start doing some videos maybe on my couch or outside my house or like in the park, or because the weather's warming up and stuff like that, so you might catch me in a couple of different scenarios in the future. But today we in the car. But the point is, today's video is going to be called Act Like a Wife Before the Ring, which means, don't wait until you get the ring and then start, turning into Martha Stewart and shit like that. So, like, if you don't show any traits of being a wife before the ring is offered to you, there's a pretty good chance you're not going to even get the ring offered to you in the first place. So, you ain't got to worry about all that. So, you need to, play the part way before you, are offered the position. And I know what some of you guys are thinking, cooking and cleaning and things like that. I'm not really necessarily talking about that in this video here. I am going to touch on it, but briefly, because to me, that doesn't secure anybody. Like, it helps, to make the decision and whatnot, but it doesn't. Just because you the best cook on earth, just because you can, you mopping floors with, Q-tips and shit like that, like that doesn't guarantee you a spot nowhere, because a man's gonna go where the fuck a man's gonna go. He's gonna take that meal and eat it and leave, and still not give a fuck. Because at the end of the day, I mean, you see it all the time. Like the celebrities and stuff. Like, they're not really, they got private chefs and things like that, and they order a lot of DoorDash and whatnot and things like that. So, they're not really concerned too much. Notice I put the air quotes. It's not like I'm hands free. All I gotta do is order DoorDash or hire somebody to cook these meals, and and I'm good. I ain't say that. Like, that ain't quite what I mean, but what I'm saying. I've seen chicks laying men that can't even boil water. So, like, if you the one, you the one. Whether you can cook or not, whether you cleaning or whatever, the standard things women supposed to do, whatnot, things like that. So, don't get too caught up into the cooking and cleaning part, because that's not really what this video is about. But let's just get on into the video, I guess. Number one, most men are looking for, kind-hearted, easygoing, laid back women. Now, if you with the rah-rah and you got an attitude, she's looking at me all wrong, got me fucked up, and you just kind of flying off the handle, and you just kind of like a ticking time bomb, like, you're probably not gonna get a ring by the right person. Now, I'm not saying you're not gonna get a ring. I'm just saying it's gonna be pretty hard to lock a motherfucker down. Well, the good ones anyway. I'm just put it like that. Some people out here marrying for green cards, or just because they're lonely or desperate, or for money. Like, there's different reasons why people get married, but like, with that attitude, you're not gonna land Russell Wilson, so you can just forget that. So if you like hard to deal with, you way too spicy, and ain't nothing wrong with a little bit of spice. Actually, it's encouraged. But if you start taking this shit overboard, and then at that point, shit becomes a problem. So, if you're one of the wild ones that don't know how to act in public, that's fighting in Walmart and, World Star, like, and then you come home and fight with him and pick arguments and nag all day, and you're just an overall angry person. Like, nobody's gonna marry that and be living with that, and for the rest of their lives. Like, people like peace, people like stability, people like calm things that soothe their soul, not oh my god, like nobody wants to be on this roller coaster all fucking day long. Hold up, you guys, I'm thirsty, motherfucker. I be doing some of the ratchet shit. But anyway, the point is that, if you're not really ladylike, you're gonna probably never see that ring. So you might want to bring it down a few notches. Like, I'm not saying change your personality, but like some stuff just unnecessary. Picking fights is unnecessary. Walking around with an attitude, your arms folded, is unnecessary. Like snapping on people is unnecessary. Some shit just unnecessary. Like angry, bossy, behavior that only attracts beta men. Like nobody's checking for that. They want the easygoing, carefree, just, I love life loves me, and I'm gonna see where it's gonna take me. I have a positive outlook on the future, things like that. People want to be around people like that. Nobody really wants to deal with a stick in the mud, the crabs in the bucket, the Debbie Downers, and just all those little names like that. That's just negative connotation. Like that ain't it. Number two, nurturing. You have to be, considered to be a potentially good mother, especially if the man already has kids. Like, you better be on your P's and Q's because he's watching you. Trust and believe. If he's a good dad, he's watching you, to see how you, perform around his kids and how well they like you. And, basically, you're like, your name is in the hat to be, stepmom. And so if you fail the test, then you ain't getting no damn ring. Like, you can do everything else right, but if them kids don't like you, then that might be I have seen some situations where, the guy have, went ahead and, you know, got with the woman even though the kids weren't too fond of, whatever. But it just makes it harder. Like, it's better if everybody just get along and do what the fuck you supposed to do type shit versus, whatever. So if you're showing good motherly traits, you're, nurturing, and, you're feeding them and taking care of them and worrying about them. And, you just basically treat the kids like your own. Those are brownie points for you later on whenever he's, getting ready to decide whether or not he's going to keep you around type shit. So, and plus if you're nurturing to him, like, like, don't become his mother. Like, I need to, what? That's a whole nother video. It's probably gonna be called "Don't Become His Mother," or I'll change the words around however I need to. But the point is, what I'm saying, you have to be, have the mothering, caring spirit, the earth mama, like, whenever shit go wrong, they should be able to come to you, and you should be able to, give them the, the feminine touch that they're looking for. Like, what mothers do. They take care of you, they make sure you're all right and things like that. So, if you're a I don't give a fuck type of person, and, like, you're selfish, or you're only thinking of thyself, then that's not really nurturing too much. And then, the shit might come back to bite you in the ass whenever he's ready to settle down, because ain't nobody trying to settle down with somebody who doesn't bring peace and in the middle of calamity. So, nurturing, could mean, like, just, I don't know, I'm trying to think of a word. Like, I don't know, like, if you see, your man having a bad day, you can, like, just listen to him talk, help him, like, just, I don't know. Y'all know, if you're a female, I mean, nurturing, I shouldn't even really have to explain it. This is like, should be second nature to most females, unless you a goddamn lesbo or something like that, and you swinging the other way, then, you might have a little bit more masculine traits. But I'm talking to the true females here. Nurturing is by instinct, because, we bear children and things like that. So, a lot of times the shit comes, without us even trying. But if you don't have that factor to where he feels safe and calm around you and can trust that you'll listen and understand and things like that, then, you might I don't know. You might have trouble trying to get this ring on your finger. You might have trouble getting him to the motherfucking anywhere. But anyway, point is number three. Now some of y'all might, I don't know, but I'm gonna say it anyway. Dressing like a hoochie. Like you can't like come outside with both butt cheeks hanging out of your shorts. You come outside, your nipple hanging out. Like no, like ain't nobody finna wife nobody that's walking around half fucking naked unless you're a celebrity and you're doing it for clout or for, because your manager made you do it or whatever. But the typical male is not gonna like invest too much heavily into a person that's scantily dressed. Like, it's okay to show a little cleavage, you feeling yourself, whatever, whatever, whatever. But there's a thin line between like skirt and mini skirt. Like, if you can't bend all the way over, if you can't bend all the way over without your ass and pussy lips hanging out, it's too damn short. Standing up, this shit don't count because we all know at some point you're gonna have to bend the fuck over and tie your shoe or adjust your shoe or scratch your leg or you might drop your purse or like just whatever. Like, there's gonna become a point time in the day while you have this dress, skirt, whatever on, you're gonna have to bend over. And if you gotta squat and turn to the side, and if you gotta do way too much just to pick up a drop pencil or something, then your shit is probably too short. You know what I'm saying? If you can't really do, too many jumping jacks without your titty popping out, then you might need a new shirt. Like, point blank, period. So I'm not saying like just be covered up like a nun. Like, don't take this shit to the extreme. Y'all know the clothes I'm fucking talking about. The shit that exposes damn near everything on your body except for your nipples and your butt crack. Like, I can see everything. Like, there's nothing left to the imagination. There's nothing to wonder about. There's nothing to fantasize about. There's nothing, like, every man doesn't seem like everything. Like, why would a man want a woman that everybody's seen? That kind of goes for like porn stars and strippers and OnlyFans. Like, nobody's gonna really take you serious. Like, I mean, they might throw you a few dollars because they hornballs and things like that. But like, ask one of them motherfuckers to marry you and see how many of them actually do it. But I mean, do what the fuck you want to do. But anyway, number 4, stability. If you sitting around getting your lights cut off every other month, if you gotta, go borrow money for your, child's formula, every, 55 minutes, if you, just unstable, you really ain't got a secure place to live, you ain't really, got a job that's like supporting you, financially, you might be making a few dollars, but it's just, you still in the ghetto in a roach infested apartment type shit. Like, that's not stability. And a man's thinking, well, most men that aren't after your money, they're wondering like, if she's unstable and already, then what the fuck is she gonna do after I marry her? Like, if she ain't got her shit together now, then what type of person is she gonna be whenever, we move in together and things like that? But like I said, I ain't gonna say most men. I mean, the right man is gonna, pay the bills and things like that, so you don't really have to worry about that. But it's just the point that you should have already had something going for yourself. I'm not saying being a billionaire, things like that, but even without a man, you should have a car. You should have somewhere to lay your head. Don't have to be, in a luxury apartment or anything, but you shouldn't be worrying about rent and things like that. And the basic necessities for your kids. I'm not saying all of them gotta be walking around in a new pair of Jordans and LeBrons, but like, for the most part, your kids should have, the bare necessities. And so if you can't even handle that, or if you ain't got no car, you walking around, taking public transportation, and you just got all these, problems and stuff going on in your life. He's gonna start thinking like, once I marry her, all her problems become my problems. So if you got all this debt and things like that, that shit might make a motherfucker. They might decide they ain't trying to fuck with you for real, because you just bring too much drama, and then you showing signs of, you know, incompetence and things like that. And so, that could possibly sway a person's opinion as well. You might check off all these other blocks, but the part about, being responsible and things like that is kind of, outweighing, some of the good qualities that you have, and it could possibly, cause you disqualification. And the next one is femininity. Like, it kind of ties in with the first one, but it kind of doesn't. But basically, you have to look and walk and carry yourself like a female. Like, this goes, like, you gotta be looking good, smelling good, just, the basic stuff. The basically go to Instagram and look at the IG models, and that's basically what the fuck you need to be doing. Minus the scantily dressed, ass out shit. Don't count that. Like, just leave that for whoever. But I'm talking about everything else. You know how they do the self care, how they, so the facials and the, they take good care of their skin. They're exfoliating, and they're wearing makeup. I don't suggest too much makeup, because some people go overboard with it. Light natural makeup, and their hair is in good health, and their outfit, they're working their outfit. They're at a reasonable size, for their height, weight, the BMI index. Find the BMI index at 10 pounds, at 10 pounds, at 10 pounds, because the numbers that they got is unrealistic. The only way you can meet those numbers is if you eating salad every day and you don't live in America. But if you live in America, then like that's hell no. Add 10 pounds to the BMI, and then that's where the fuck you need to be at. So if you ain't shaped right, you might want to get your ass in the gym. That all ties into the femininity. Females are supposed to be dainty and, slim in the waist and things like that. So if you're a tad bit overweight, you might want to handle that, because, hey, how the hell you gonna fit in your wedding dress? I mean, I've seen plus size women. I'm just saying, like, you want to look your best, and so he's not tempted to, go look at somebody else who's physically fit, and that's, taking 2 mile jogs every morning, that's in tip top shape, and that's going to live a long time, that he can trust to bear his children because she's healthy, versus an unhealthy person that's, eating cheeseburgers every day, and then it could possibly complicate the pregnancy, because she has diabetes and things like, see how this shit ties into other things. I mean, that's not the only thing. That's just, the first thing that came to my mind. But you know what I'm saying? Like, femininity goes into, the way you dress, the way you talk, the way you walk. You're not flirting with all his friends and things like that. You're not embarrassing him in public. Like, it's just, you carry yourself like a lady. Just pretend like the whole world is watching you at all times, and that's how you need to carry yourself. Like, don't start doing crazy nonsense that's gonna put you in this masculine category. And a man's not gonna marry a man, well, unless you're, whatever. But like, most men are going to marry the most feminine woman that they can find, with a slight twist of tomboy. Slight. Don't go overboard with that either, because you don't want to turn into one of his homies, because then that's a whole nother video. But you know what? That's a whole nother video. That's actually a situation that I hadn't even ever thought of. Actually, might have to sit down and think about that one for a minute. But I already know the meat and potatoes of, what the video is going to be about. But too much masculinity will turn a man's fire for you completely off. So just keep that in mind. But anyway, here's the most famous one: cooking and cleaning. First of all, if you watch any of my other videos, I've said we ain't doing none of that. None of that. Now, what you can do, you can cook a meal for, like, maybe it's the holidays or something, or maybe you having a family get together and everybody's bringing a dish. Then maybe you can, it's excusable on, times like that, picnics, barbecues, whatever. But if it's just like a regular night, y'all just whatever, like, no, like, you're not gonna turn it to his personal shell, because they will take advantage of that really, really fast, and then they'll expect you to do that shit every day. And then when you stop doing it, it just don't start nothing you can't finish. And first of all, like, only your husband's supposed to be getting like treatment like that. Like, you don't cook for no boyfriend, because boyfriends can leave, they can break up with you. That's just not guaranteed. So now they done ran off with your motherfucking fettuccine alfredo, and that you done spent 10,000 hours on. Like, I done seen too many men walk out on, people who've like been over backwards for them. And so that's really why I say don't do the shit, because they don't appreciate it. And plus, those are husband benefits. Like, there's tiers, there's levels to this shit. Like, boyfriend, you get the bare minimum. You know what I'm saying? Once you graduate to husband, then, you know what I'm saying, you've unlocked a new level. So, like, if you give everything to him at first, there's nothing to look forward to, after you're married. They already got to put cookies. You know what I'm saying? You done already gave him the best of you. You might have already popped out a few of his kids and shit. I mean, what does he have to gain from marrying you? You're the only person that have shit to gain, like, the Social Security and the, having a man in the house, and things like that, getting the bills paid. But, like, what is he benefiting from if you done already cooked and cleaned, and you done pretty much gave him everything he ever wanted? Why would he marry you at this point? Because he's getting everything anyway. So that's another reason why you need to keep some of this shit, save it for later type stuff. But that's your famous cooking and clean I keep hearing. But like I said before, I've seen women like do nothing and still, like, what Cardi B say? I don't cook, I don't clean, but let me tell you, I got this ring. Like, that's some real shit right there. Like, you don't really have to. It helps, but you don't really have to until, after, you're married and you're living together and things like that. But any motherfucking way, we can go on past that, because, like, I ain't doing none of that. No, your camera didn't freeze. Anyway, your social media also should be modest. And what I mean by that is that, like, don't be on the gram, with your back to the camera, like, bending over, just doing thotty ass poses and thotty ass behavior. Like nobody's marrying that. Like, nobody's, like, you might ruin your chances just by social media alone. In person, you might not even be, that, outlandish. But if you get on the internet, looking like a thirst trap type shit, and you're not dressed properly, or you're not behaving properly in the uploaded videos, if you're just, flirting with too many guys on the internet, and, like, that's not gonna work either, because that's showing, like, promiscuous behavior, and most men are not turned on by that. There's actually a red fucking flag. And so at that point, you might lose your chances of getting this ring. So I would be mindful of, like, what you post on the internet and how you carry yourself and things like that. If you on there talking about, I don't know, y'all should already know how the hell you should need to be behaving on the internet, because, like, that kind of shows your character a little bit. And if it shows something ratchet, then they're going to mistake you as being ratchet, and then there goes your hopes and dreams. But anyway, the next one, you got to be exciting and interesting. Have your own life outside of him. Like, y'all can do things together, but you also need to do a hell of a lot of shit apart. Like, don't smother him, period, because he's gonna run like the Dickens. Like, don't even try that. Don't try to spend every day together. Don't be falling asleep on the phone and all this other, people only do that in the honeymoon phase, like in the beginning. Then after a while, the shit slows down, and then they stop calling or come up with excuses as to why they can't fall asleep on the phone again. Like, that's typically some stuff that happens in the beginning, which I don't even suggest you do it in the beginning either, because it's just, I don't know, because you can't keep it up realistically. So just don't even start nothing you can't finish. But if you're excited and have things going on in your life, oh, I'm going to Paris next week. Oh, well, my friend's having a bar mitzvah, and, just basically just stay gone, be gone, have your own life, keep all your old hobbies that you had before him. Please don't quit that, because once you quit that, then your time opens up, and then now you have to find something to put in his place. And if he doesn't want to be in that place every day, then I mean, by you trying to force him, that's another form of smothering, and it just goes left. Just keep your life, stay excited and interesting, have things going on, inside of your life that's completely separate from what he has going on, so you guys can have something to talk about, whenever you guys get together and things like that. But the next one, the best version of yourself. You need to be the best version of yourself. Like, if you're going to be a wife, you can't, you're going to have to improve in some areas. Some people might need more improvement than others, but, you're going to have to step your game up, because you can't, be a girlfriend to, a grown ass man husband. So, if you need to lose weight, do that. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you need to go to therapy for some childhood issues, trauma, or maybe you got PTSD from, a bunch of failed ass relationships, go see about that. Go find you a life coach, or, stuff like that, a mentor, like, um, but, all of the, you need to upgrade yourself to the highest level, because, if you don't, you could risk, not getting chose, basically. I mean, you might be fine the way you are, but, you want that extra ump to make sure, that you make a safe landing. Not only make a safe landing, but, what I'm saying, all your passengers are alive, aka, you stay in this marriage and he doesn't stray, you know what I'm saying, things like that. So, and then the last one, stand on business, you know what I'm saying, state the things you don't like and stand on them. Don't, start letting him break the rules, or he get a pass here and there. Whatever you don't like, whatever you don't tolerate, whatever you feel you want, what I'm saying, you need to express that, and stand on that. Like, if you start buckling down, if you basically, you'll become a doormat if you don't stand on business. So I suggest you basically verbalize the things that you want and don't want, and stand on that. So if you say, I ain't putting up no cheating, and then, you catch him texting, some bitches later on down the line, then, you need to fix that shit. If it's true and you got receipts and things like that, you might want to be like, hey, this ain't gonna ride. If we together, there's no reason for you to be talking about some hey beautiful in her inbox. Like, what are we? How do I know you ain't already cheated, and things like, it just shit just get ratchet. So stand on business, make sure you got all your do's and don'ts, in line, and make sure he knows them. And so, there's no confusion as to, whenever it's time for you to stand on business and things like that. But anyway, that's my video for today. Basically, carry yourself, the way you're supposed to carry yourself, and then the right person will come along and swoop you up and put a ring on it. Now, if you out here wilding out, half dressed, yippity yap yap, rah rah rah, hard to deal with, just doing too much, then, I mean, I ain't got nothing to do with that. But anyway, this is Save Time with Tori, and I do what? I save you time from the bullshit. Okay, bye.